Welcome back to Empire of Rust for the epilogue session of the Hate Plague. Hate Plague, Hate Plague, Hate Plague. That was a really awesome session, guys. That worked out really well, and I'm very glad that all three of you could join me for this. Go ahead and talk to me here. Tell me what you guys think of the session. What worked? What was some the awesome moments that you guys had?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun getting together with everybody here, and I appreciate
Mhm.
the opportunity. There's some
Aw.
great players and great DM, so I'm very
Mhm.
appreciative.
Aw.
The story was, the story, sort of had
You
me
get a story
going.
point.
Yeah. Just keep complimenting us. We'll stockpile them for next time, whatever that is.
We'll use them someday. Yeah, it was a lot of tension. I really enjoyed sort of the interacting of the personalities. It's hard to get a personality completely rolling when you first play a character for the first time and just for a few adventures. And
Absolutely.
these other guys did a great job sort of getting their personalities up and running fast, and able
Mhm.
to sort of interact to a degree. There are only so many opportunities in a short game, but it was a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, I found that was a lot of fun. Definitely, sort of their differing experience, sort of, because
Yeah.
all three of them had sort of different experiences with Earth. I think Harness was you were on the Ark, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so you popped out after millions of years in 1984. At Kickstart, you showed up in probably the late 90s
Would have been
or earlier, sooner.
2006 would have been after the 86 movie.
Yeah, so I'm really recent. I think when I started it was like I've only been there a couple of months.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, so right there, they both have different experiences of what it's like to be on Earth.
Yeah, the
Um,
full range of Earth experience for Cybertronians.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Sopwith, of course, ended up, in like the beginning of the 20th century, and it was actually interesting. It turned out to be sort of a disaster movie because he lived through two worldwide disasters that
Right.
were very, he ended up working with the British, and horrific World War I and World War II were. So this was another one. It was different, but
Mhm.
it was sort of. He's like, all right, I haven't seen this before, but the whole world's
Yeah, I wasn't
hell
quite
before.
expecting the zombie survival tale
Yeah,
jumping straight into that for Transformers, but it was fun. Made every encounter really like high stakes, and particularly high stakes for you, Dr. Pants, with your character like being a melee focused character. And that happened the first time. I was
Right.
like, oh boy.
And not just a melee focused character, but a melee focused character who's using a living thing as his
Yeah.
melee weapon. When that
Yep.
first happened, I did so much to build this character as a melee fighter, and I
Yeah.
ruined everything.
Oh, man, no, you didn't. And I think it's actually it really kind of speaks to your ability to kind of roll with the punches on this one, even though you found yourself like in a disadvantage in terms of like just hitting your opponent. You still managed to make it out to be an extraordinarily like epic and exciting character, just because of the various
Mhm.
things that you're trying, like
yeah,
the
yeah,
the
Yeah.
whole move, like just bashing into the dam and cutting a piece of it off. Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and that's
Well,
like you go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, that was because Matt was like, "I'm gonna pick you up," and that gave me the idea. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
height, yes. So teamwork,
Yeah.
and also thanks to our GM who let me get away with a bunch of ridiculous crap throughout the whole
Got to get a
I mean,
little bit of
honestly,
that
you
in
say
there.
ridiculous crap, but I mean, out of all the stuff that you guys did, like all of it made sense. Like there was nothing that just screamed like, "Oh no!" Like this just feels like a bridge too far.
Yeah. And it required some cool problem solving, right? Like normally something like that would be like crippling for a character that like, oh, I'm a melee character and the people who we're fighting, we can't touch them. So like that's bad. But then like the creative problem solving that you did was like, okay, I have to get a different weapon. I can't use my target master, or I'm going to attack the environment, or okay, we're going to use grenades. And then it caused creative problem solving for the rest of us, right? Like the idea of like, oh, I'm a gadgeteer. Let me use my skill to try to supplement that weakness. And I think that's actually one of the big strengths of the system since no character, because you can't like get lucky and roll high stats for a lot of stuff and be like super independent and self-sufficient. Since it's sort of point allocation and it's more limited in that way, it does require cooperation. Like without it, your characters can't really function on a mission. Like eventually they're going to run into something that will sort of be a full stop. And that's something I do like about the system. Like I can see how it being frustrating, but if you've got a good group of people like these gentlemen here, then who are willing to like work together and come up with creative solves, that feels so fun. Then that's like my favorite parts of this mission was like the collaboration and like finding creative solutions, like cutting my leg off in a door. That was so fun.
Oh my god, that whole scene. And then when we left it at the cliffhanger, and I'm like, oh no, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
Yeah, that was because it definitely created a lot of tense and tension and desperation, And you're right about it, because if you're good, especially in this system, if you're pretty good at one thing, that means you're untrained in a lot of things. And
right.
The odds are like, yes, you can try some of them, but the odds are very much against you. You definitely need the person who's good at it to do it. And
sometimes you may have a good idea, and the GM decides to spend a story point to nullify your good idea.
Yep.
Yeah, because and we didn't see it as much, but yeah, that's crazy. The idea that the GM also has access to the powerful story points. I think if we were to run this more, I think we'd probably see a lot more of that.
Absolutely.
Us in the tail.
and the thing is, like the GM gets access to a number of story points equal to the players plus 2 more on top of that. So I start off with 5 story points. I don't give myself more, so that like I can't just give them to myself like I would give them to you guys. But I start off with more and can do very similar things to what you guys did. As I was planning out the whole scenario, that moment, like I expected that moment to come up. I half expected, because I knew that I wanted the human to escape, and I knew I wanted the risk of infecting one of you to be very, very high. And I had some things kind of planned out to say like, oh, hey, maybe if one of you does get infected, how does that work? What's going to happen? Are you going to be able to control your character? And just as I wrote it, it's like, okay, yeah, there's that initial test to see whether or not you get infected or not. But there's also plenty of things that I kind of do behind the scenes to say, okay, yeah, you're infected now. What does that mean? All right, you're full of rage, you're full of hate. But even in their most hateful and rage-filled moments, just as a human, you do still have some control over your actions. So if you had a way of kind of focusing that anger on something concrete, I'm perfectly willing to let you guys kind of go that road. The thing is, and the important thing that you're going to need to figure out, like, if that was the case, was how, like, if you were going to go to Omega Supreme, how would you possibly do that? How would you be able to escape the planet? And that actually brought up another option, because, like, as you were planning through that and trying to, after the message from Optimus Prime, you had an option: go for Omega Supreme or try to find a ship. And with an infected Transformer in your group, you're likely going to go for the ship option rather than Omega Supreme.
There was a good possibility that at some point it would have become one of those situations where, like, we would each have to sort of like sacrifice ourselves to ensure the rest of the group can push forward. Like, I could see a situation where, like, let's say I get infected, like, by pushing Perceptor out of the way, and they have to leave me behind, and then as they're launching with Omega Supreme, Cosmo shows up and Sopwith sort of like T-bones him to take him out of the way so Omega Supreme can get away and infects himself, so we get that last person off. Like, I could see it going that way, because it was super scary, right? Because with even with those like sort of stipulations of getting infected and being somewhat in control of your character, that would change things so much. And I think we all took the hate plague so seriously as a threat that I think we were all pretty much willing to lay it all on the line just to ensure that, like, that someone would be able to keep moving to cure this in case Optimus failed. Because it was kind of fun, right? Because it was one of those things like, will this play out like the show, or like is this like an alternate history where Optimus was going to, but then this other team? And so like, and then even though it did play out like in the show, I feel like we all like it felt very real in the moment that we took it all very seriously, that like it could come down to our characters, which made it super fun.
Yeah, we didn't know that that was there anyway. Really, I mean, Mike hinted at it a tiny bit, but we didn't know what would happen if a PC got infected. You know.
Yeah, that's true. I assumed that character might sort of be like out, and then like Mike be like, okay, you're gonna play Perceptor now for the rest of this like mission, or like Catapult comes online. It's like you're gonna run Catapult like while your character has like the hate plague. Like you know, maybe there could be some checks that like maybe we could get cured or something from like Perceptor. But yeah, I was fully on board with like, dude, if we get infected, this character's out for the rest of this mission.
And that was a big consideration as I was putting this together too. And that's one of the reasons why I made certain that you had a lot of like NPC options and a lot of characters that you were interacting with, just in case that did happen and you had to proceed through the mission. You know, you'd be able to find someone to kind of help out. So if someone got infected before you got to the Decepticon camp in the tunnels, one of them could maybe have joined you and help out that way. If one of you got infected right at the dam, you know, maybe Catapult would have come back online a lot sooner, and you would have been able to go that road. So
a lot of cool narrative like tools to help us be able to keep playing, even if our character, like, it would have been a bummer, right? First session, first encounter, one of our characters gets the hate plague, now becomes unplayable, so we had to pivot to another one. But I think that still would have been cool. And speaking of the Decepticons in the tunnel, that was a really cool encounter, and I really liked the way that played out with Kickstart sort of convincing them to work with us, because that also could have been a really nasty fight.
It could have. I think it helped because I made my character a morale booster. That was one of the influences I could have. So I had bonuses to persuasion and stuff, and it's like, okay, let's. I am usually all for the combat because I feel like in any tabletop game that's where I shine, because I wanna be crazy with my combat. But it's like, no. Let's see if we can get out of this without fighting.
Yeah.
What was your role there?
Hold on. So,
because Harness was the scientist, right? So.
Oh, he was Mode
Master.
Mode Master. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Which the Mode Master, the other thing with that is like all of my bonuses to all of my essence scores, I get to plan out. And I got to dictate exactly where everything went. And also I got like a crap load of bonuses.
Yeah.
All my
the Mode Master is kind of cool because you can sort of customize that to whatever you want without being necessarily like pigeonholed to any sort of archetype. That's sort of like their strength. They're sort of like a master of like jack of all trades, master of none sort of role, which I think is pretty neat.
And
Scott, did you pull your the Target Master like origin from the Enigma of Combination book?
Yeah, so the Target Master is it's a focus for the Mode Master.
Okay,
and you could be a Power Master, a Headmaster, or a Target Master. And I considered all of them, but when I read over the Target Master and then thought about what I could do then with the weapon and everything, it's like this kind of fits this character who I was designing to be like heroic and flourishy in combat and everything. Because the other thing with the Mode Master is you get hybridization, where you can do like a bunch of crazy stuff with also you get mass shift, which allows you to, you know, up a skill test or up your reach or anything. And there's all kinds of crazy stuff. You get quick change, so you can like change in a free action. Because actually originally I was going to play a triple changer. And Kickstart was originally called Skyride, and he was going to be Cybertronian Tricycle and Pterodactyl. Which, by the way, those were my wife's ideas, and I was like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, the kid in you is just like, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard of.
I was like, yes, but like I couldn't quite make it work thematically, and I went with the Target Master, but.
Yeah, I mean, I actually was looking at Mode Master to be like a plane and a tank, but I was also, for a while, I was seriously considered as a Decepticon role that gives you 2 extra vault modes.
Yes,
It
there
doesn't
is.
have as I don't think it has mass shift, and it doesn't have as many options as Mode Master does. So you sort of sacrifice a lot of those abilities to be,
Yeah.
and eventually it becomes a 6 changer at like level 12 or something like that.
Yeah, you can get just like really. It is sort of specializing in having as many alt modes as possible,
Yeah.
but you sort of sacrifice some of the more flexibility in what you can sort of use their other abilities for that the other mode master gets.
Yeah.
The mode master is one of those like roles that like if you're like brand new to this system, like and you've not played it, maybe wait because it's super new. Like it is definitely like when I was reading through, I was like, this sounds really cool. And like I want to play it, but like it is super like it's cool because you can sort of like if you're not taking like the Micromaster focus, which is like the Soundwave blaster, like having mini cons that dock to you, sort of like and the Target Master one that from the Enigma book, it is the role like especially with all the hybridization and mass shift, it is the Transformer shapeshifter role where you are really taking the most advantage out of transforming because you're modifying how quickly you can go into other modes. You're like sort of like they use an example in one part of the book and it's sort of like Trax in the old cartoon where like in car mode has his arm transform out to grab like a light pole to make like a fast turn. Like that you can sort of like be both modes at once. And especially like and we didn't get to see it necessarily in this mission, but the idea that Kickstart could hybridize himself to gain the benefits of both his alt mode and his bot mode and gain his whatever crazy speed is from the champion origin and have his sword and just wheel around like a robot centaur.
So I was originally planning that, but because that's the half track hybridization, I ended up taking the fast track, which made all of my mass shifts free actions because my speed stat was so high. I had 6 free actions, so I could burn that on mass shifting, extra attacks, and all that stuff. It was.
I do like how speed does affect how much your character can do in a turn. I think that's pretty neat. Like speed is usually pretty powerful in most RPGs, but I do like that flexibility to use free actions based on how fast your character is. I think that's pretty dope.
I did notice this of all the essences, speed seems to be. There's a lot of pivotal stuff on speed more than probably anything else.
Yeah.
And I noticed all of us sort of that's our peak of our. I'm not sure about Harness, but
Harness it's one of his lower stats. Actually, I made him intentionally a little bit clumsier. I more invested in smarts and strength because I thought that would be pretty cool, but sacrificed in social and speed so that he was tougher, and smarter, but not necessarily as quick. And actually, it worked out better than I thought it would. Since the toughness defense is pretty usable, like in place of like evasion, it's pretty good. But I would definitely agree. I think there's there's a lot of like in terms of what I would consider like core RPG stats, sort of fall under speed, like initiative, targeting for ranged attacks, finesse for also melee attacks, infiltration for stealth. Like there is a lot of like those like these like in terms of like what is normally within an RPG like adventure session, those cover a lot of the bases.
For all the free actions too.
Yeah, all the free actions.
While Essence 20 has done a lot of things to kind of like simplify the ability, like the Essence score spread, speed still is a very, very important one. It just adds so much to it that like you still want to get a lot of stuff in there.
And that's sort of a systemic problem in RPGs, like that like dexterity in other systems is very good. Like if you go full into dexterity, you cover so many of your bases. On the flip side, it doesn't help you in everything. Like we've talked about, investing heavily in one stat does make you severely weak in others. And like, if you're like, it's like I have a 20 evasion, that's great. But like we talked about in the session with like certain ranged weapons that like if you're at extended ranges, you can't evade if you can't really gauge when that bullet's going to hit you. Like it comes down to your toughness. Like if a sniper's got you in their sights in this system and they're like half a mile away, you don't get a chance to dodge because you didn't know the shot was coming. Like it comes down to whether your character is tough enough, which is kind of cool that like if you want to be like a big like warrior like Ironhide, it's more about you hit me, I just don't care. Which can be pretty cool.
And it was
So
interesting
there is that.
how you made that conscious decision to not do all this to speed things because it was part of your character theme.
Yeah,
That was,
and it worked out because you guys were fast. Like I didn't have to worry
Yeah.
necessarily. And as like the medic of the group, I thought like, well, it's kind of good to go later in the initiative because I can heal any damage that gets done earlier in the round,
makes sense.
which can be pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and
I mean, I was considering the Mode Master sort of, speaking of sort of things that you let yourself sort of have a handicap in, and maybe it's a handicap. I was sort of stuck on Mode Master because I know I wanted to be the plane, but it's like, it's going to be a pain in the neck if I have to try to be on the ground and be in disguise because I can't. It's either flying or walking around, and it's like, all right,
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'm gonna embrace this difficulty, and I'll just look at something that it's gonna have something I have to work around, from a play point of view, as opposed to like choosing in second mode to sort of make it easier.
One thing that I was actually finding as I was running all of the enemies here, health works so differently in this system than it does on anything else.
Having it be so much smaller is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, like in a game like Pathfinder or D&D, like a 4th level character, 30, 40 hit points, that's not atypical at all. These guys here, we did the mission at level 4, and you're what, capping out at 5 or 6?
I had 7.
I had 6.
I had 7.
I had 5.
Yeah. And each weapon that you get hit with is going to deal, minimum 1 damage. I mean, Scott, your your blade there was dealing a ridiculous amount, but that's atypical for the system.
Yeah, well, but that's also a character that's heavily invested in doing as much damage with the sword as possible. That includes like like focus perks, weapon upgrades, like all the bells and whistles to do 3 damage, which is atypical, especially
like
at
the
this
most
level.
powerful weapons in the book do like 3, and that's usually with like 3 downships to just activate that ability.
All of my enemies that I was using, they all just do 1 damage with each hit, just 1 damage, and that's it. Now they have an advantage because there's more of them, certainly,
right?
But in the end, like if you get hit by like 2 or 3 of these things, it very easily, like in a Pathfinder or D&D setting, you get 2 or 3 hits, you're probably going to be hurting, but you're not going to be dead unless you're super low level. But in most cases, you're going to be okay for another hit or 2. But with this system, I mean, and like 3 hits really could just bring you down very, very quickly.
Yeah. One unfortunate grenade toss from a bad guy could take the whole group from like full health to like half health immediately, and then we're like in serious trouble. But on the flip side, because the nature of Transformers that like defeated based on what the table that's running the game, defeated could mean a lot of different things. Like it could mean like we could be running a game that's a lot darker, where like defeated is dead, and like if you want to get brought back, you would have to get rebuilt at a thing. But even that is a cool, unique element to Transformers that I think is a lot of fun, is that like, because of the nature of Transformers, is that like they're a lot hardier than like a standard humanoid in an RPG, is that you can get like wrecked, but still get put together back at base if you can be retrieved, which is something that you don't typically have. Like if you get dismembered, then like, and it comes down to like the nature of the way you're defeated, right? Like if Megatron is standing over you, says such heroic nonsense, and blasts you point blank, you're probably not coming back.
I was actually looking at the Decepticon book the other day, and Megatron is in there. He has an ability called Such Heroic Nonsense.
He does.
if he attacks an unconscious or a prone character on the ground, he defeats them. Just outright. Doesn't matter how much health you have. He just
he has an ability to recreate that scene, and I think that's awesome.
That's so fan servicey, and I love it.
Yeah.
All right, I got 2 more things I want to talk about before we wrap this up. The first is a kind of a big one here. You guys made the decision to go to find Omega Supreme. Really cool decision. If you had chosen the other option to go find a ship, that was like, I had that scenario all set and planned out for you. You would go to the Mission City spaceport. You would find most of the ships either damaged or wrecked too much to the point where they could even take off. but there was one ship that would have been left, and that was the Lazy Sue. Anyone remember where the Lazy Sue is from?
I don't.
It sounds familiar, but I can't. I can't place it.
That's Lazy Susan there, Matt.
Well, I mean, that's Lazy
not
Sue
the
to her
ship.
friends.
What's the name of the she's that astronaut from season 3?
I think you're
What's her
getting
name?
there.
That's not her ship, is it?
Unless you give me the name, I can't confirm or deny that.
What's her name? I can't remember. There is a sort of like a fiery sort of like pilot astronaut character in season 3, I believe.
There's
she
an
does
episode.
fly.
I just looked it up because I
There's an episode called "Money." Money is everything. It's a season 3 episode. It is the one of the earliest episodes that has the Technobots and the Terracons.
Yep.
Marissa
can't
Fairborn is in it,
I was so
Uh-huh.
close.
But
That is
that-
who I was thinking of. I could
but
not place
that's
her
not
name.
her ship though. It is the
Interesting.
ship of Dirk Manus, the
Oh, he's like the Han Solo who tricks her.
exactly right. Yep. And if you went there and you went into the Lazy Sue and wanted to take that, you would find an infected Dirk Manus in the bridge of that ship.
Yo.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, that would have been fun.
That would have been fun.
Unfortunately, my G1 knowledge is a little sparse. I have not had a rewatch of G1 in a long time.
There's a lot of it, and season 2 is rough.
at times.
Season
and-
2 or
yeah.
season 3?
They're both a little iffy. Season 1 is definitely the highlight for me, anyway.
I actually like a lot of like the space opera stuff that came from season 3. One of the best lines that Magnus had. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Now give me the bomb. The other thing that didn't come up here in the story that Lisa wanted to mention was Brandon, when you were trying to get Perceptor to help you to Omega Supreme, he couldn't. And the reason for that is because he was actually providing some medical assistance to Mirage. You didn't ask the question, but Mirage hooked himself into Omega's systems and is effectively sharing his invisibility power with Omega, and Omega's power, keeping him alive and powering him.
Yeah, Scott mentioned that he'd asked, like, was it Mirage or Hound with the...
And the thought crossed my mind of, like, did someone connect in, like, Mirage's invisibility projector or something into him?
Was Mirage was actually in there and we didn't realize it?
Correct.
Yeah.
You never bothered to...
in the engines or something, yeah.
Yep.
Well,
you
we
never
didn't
bothered
bother to ask, is there a person we're not aware of in here, I guess.
Yeah.
And if you...
Well, thank God they weren't infected.
Yeah.
And if you took some time to explore all of Omega before taking off, then you would have found him. If you asked, like, "Hey, how'd you do this?" He would have showed you that he's hooked up. But
we were sort of in a rush.
Exactly.
I was waiting.
Yeah.
I was waiting for zombies to show up at any time.
I guess there could have been dozens of people in there, frankly.
Potentially,
I mean, it would have been a good place to hide for anyone,
Yeah.
Certainly.
Well, there was also the idea that Omega Supreme did say survivors unlikely or survivors unexpected. Like, he did not expect more, like, survivors in general, so.
Yeah.
All right. This has been a great time, gentlemen, but I think we need to wrap this up. Anything that you want to add before we take off?
This was an absolute blast. I loved every bit of it. It was such a joy to play with you guys. Especially someone from Empire of Rust, because I absolutely love that. And all honesty, when I found out somebody from Empire of Rust was playing, I was like, yay! Because I'm a little starstruck because I love those characters and everything. So it was a joy.
So kind.
And Brandon, like, you were absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
You were very, very supportive in helping character creation and everything, and you made it a lot easier. And it was great to work with all of you. So
yeah, I hope we can play a game together again sometime.
Yeah. I would love to revisit these characters again. It was so much fun.
I definitely want to. I've been wanting to do the biplane thing forever, honestly. So.
Nice.
Yeah, this was an absolute blast. The only thing I'll say to anyone who's listening is that if you're interested in the Essence 20 transform system, pick it up. There's a new basic box out for anyone. I don't know if it's on pre-order or if it's currently available now for
Pre-order.
any aspiring GMs. I don't believe it comes with the core rulebook, but it does come with some pre-generated character sheets for if you want to play some named Autobots, as well as 3 adventure modules in there.
2,
a
I
GM
think.
screen.
It
and then a game how to play guide.
Yep, it
That's
reprints the Troubled Waters from the core rulebook, and I think a
The Time Has
shortened
Come?
version of A Time Is Now. Yeah.
Yeah, time is now. Yeah. So if you're interested, that seems like a great product to pick up. But yeah, definitely give it a shot.
And I hope we can get together again. I mean, it actually makes me think I want to maybe try my hand running one sometime with the 3 of you guys.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'd also be willing to try my hand if people are willing. I've run the game once before, but we could get like a little circulation going where we each try our hand running a mission. And this game system is, I think, great for like contained little episodic little missions. So I think that'd be a blast.
Excellent.
Oh, I have one more question before we go.
Do it.
Did we level up?
That's some Munchkin behavior.
I guess you'll just have to see next time.
The classic Mike sign
There's
off.
still a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
We're done.
We were
Never
this
done.
close without having the cliffhanger.
Have a good night, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and
Thanks,
join us next
guys.
time.
Have a good
Good
night.
night.
Later.